right, welcome back to another episode of The Potential Project. I'm your host, Sean Calhoun, and I thank you for joining me for another week and another discussion around health, around optimization, around just becoming your best self. And as I sit here looking at myself in the camera, I realize that it's been a long while since I've had a guest on. I've just been I've just been focused on providing you guys with my thoughts, my insight, my knowledge from things that I've researched and learned and also experienced with clients, which is great because they end up being 20 to 30 minute episodes, hopefully something valuable, hopefully something that you can take away and take action on. But I am going to be searching for some other guests to come on the show because I enjoy talking to people and sharing their stories as well. So enough with that side tangent. Just thought of it as I saw myself here alone on the video camera. But today, what I wanted to talk about was a common question that comes up when talking with clients. Now, people are always asking me, what should I eat to lose weight? What should I eat to build muscle or feel healthy, or just in general, like, what should I be eating? But I thought about that, right? And I realized that I can't just tell you what to eat. You know, like in the past, I have put together seriously detailed nutrition plans for people, like what to eat, when to eat it, the measurements, the macros, the calories. Like I broke it down in maybe too much detail and too much specificity, and I've seen those things get basically wasted, right? Like I gave plans to people and they just didn't do it. For whatever reason, that's okay. That's not what we're going to talk about today. But I realized with this question that first, the question should be not what should you eat, but it's what are you already eating, right? Because so many people are trying to plan this destination that they're trying to get to, the losing the weight, the certain size in the stomach and the hips, but they don't even understand where their starting point is. So I'm big on visual cues and learning and analogies. So hear me out, right? If we were flying in a plane over the United States and I dropped you by a parachute, wherever, you don't know where you're at, but you had to get to Florida, where would you go? Would you go left, right, this way, that way? You wouldn't know because you have no idea where I dropped you. You could go this way and end up in Canada. You could go that way and end up in San Diego, right? You don't know how to get to Florida because you don't even know where you're at. And this is what happens with nutrition, with food. It's people, they have this emotional desire. They want to lose weight. They want to feel a certain way. And I say emotional because it's a logical thing to want to lose weight, but it's emotional in their approach to it. There's no basis on fact, there's no basis on trackable things, and they're just kind of getting upset if they don't move in the right direction. So what I'm trying to say is, if your goal is to lose weight, if your goal is to boost energy, if your goal is to build muscle, you can't simply say, what should I eat? Until you have a very, very good understanding of where you're at right now, and then be willing to take a small step forward in the right direction. So the reason why most nutrition plans fail is because this is what I see often, right? People immediately jump to things like downloading a calorie tracking app. They're maybe counting every single macro that they eat. A big one is cutting carbs, cutting out carbohydrates from their diet. Maybe you go on a restrictive diet where it's intermittent fasting or just eliminating things so that like you eat less calories, or you follow someone else's meal plan that you saw online or was really enticing when you were scrolling on Instagram and Facebook. But the problem is that you've never taken the time to actually understand what habits and patterns you're currently doing in your own life. So you're automatically just grabbing out of thin air, trying to hold on to a plan, advice, or something that you think sounds good, but you don't even really know where you're at, right? And then while you're doing that, you've never realized that maybe you're skipping breakfast all the time and it's causing you to become ravenously hungry at nighttime. Maybe you're barely eating protein until you get to dinner and then you have some small piece of steak or chicken. Maybe you're snacking throughout the afternoon. Maybe you're going super long periods without eating at all and it's throwing your blood sugar off. Maybe your weekends look so completely different than Monday through Thursday that it's hard to even be consistent with anything. And you're doing all these little extra, like you might have an extra drink or an extra bite or a snack and some sauces, and all of that extra little curricular activity adds up, right? So there's tons of different things that could be happening. And when you hop on this strict plan, like cutting calories or tracking every single calorie, it might temporarily cover up the fact that you're making these small little like incremental things throughout the week, like skipping protein and these patterns, but it doesn't teach you how to actually recognize what's going on or change them in a healthy way for the long haul, for the rest of your life, essentially. Because my goal for you and myself and anyone I encounter with health is that you take back the power. You're not reliant on anyone else to tell you exactly what to do for the rest of your life. The goal is to become so aware of your body, of your habits, of your mindset, and be in control of what the outcome is based on those habits, that you now know what to do for your eating, for your exercise. And it takes some time, I promise you. It's like compound interest with money. It does take time, but over time, if you do it long enough, you will be empowered and you will take back control of your health. And that's my goal. And so when it comes to your eating habits and understanding what to eat, awareness, it has to come before the optimization of your diet, right? So what I have people do is for the first, let's call it 1 to 3 weeks, I just have them write down what they're eating, approximately how much you ate and what time you ate it. And then I'm talking anything, right? Like let's say you had a snack, you had a handful of cashews, write down what it was and what time. You don't have to weigh it. You don't have to calculate the calories or the macros. You simply take a log. And the way I like to do that is in my notes section of my phone. If you like to write on paper, you can have a physical paper journal or a piece of paper, however you like to do it. But as simple as possible, no trackers, no apps, just what you ate, what time, right? The key with this is that it's simply awareness. You are not judging yourself. You are not trying to make this log look super impressive. You're not changing anything because now you're writing it down, right? The goal is just to collect honest information, right? And what you're doing is becoming curious about your behavior instead of criticizing for yourself for it. This is not write your food down and say, oh man, no wonder you can't lose weight. You're eating all the time at nighttime. No. That's not what this is about. It is simply pattern recognition and awareness to what you're eating. Because up until this point, the way you've eaten, the time you've eaten, and what you're eating has led you to feel a certain way, to have certain maybe insulin resistance or whatever the problem is. A lot of what our symptoms are have something to do with nutritional deficiencies or the way in which you're consuming food. So this is a big domino to knock over. Now, some people may have underlying conditions, and I'm not saying that what you eat solves all your problem, but I will surely tell you that no matter what your condition is, whether you have, cancer, whether you have bacterial overgrowth, whether you have insulin resistance, whatever it is, improving your nutritional capacity and improving your ability to eat clean and eat with your body instead of some random diet will improve that scenario. It will not make it worse. No one ever had, infection, or no one ever had like any type of disease and said, man, you should probably start eating like crap now because that'll help it. So what I'm saying is, whatever your situation is, eating healthier and eating for your body will improve it. Right? Now, some things that we're going to see pop up through this food log are very, helpful. It's very apparent on what's going on and tracking trends, and it reveals things to us. So after you do this for a couple days, maybe a week or two, you're going to start to see patterns. And here are some things that you can consider to look at, right? Where is most of my protein coming from? Is it, protein bars? Is it real food? Am I not getting any protein, right? Am I consuming protein earlier in the day? Or when am I eating the protein throughout the day? How many hours am I going between the meals? Maybe you're totally, eating too many times throughout the day. Maybe you're eating there's too many big breaks throughout the meals, right? There's things that you can look at there. When do you experience the strongest cravings during your day? Maybe you start to pick up on that pattern, like, 2 p.m., I really have these cravings for chocolate and sweets or salty foods. Do I eat differently when I'm stressed, tired, or busy? You can look at your schedule, look at your log, and say, oh, you know what? I noticed that on Wednesdays, I am super booked with meetings, work is crazy, and that's when my eating goes out the window, and that throws me off for the rest of the week. You can see, am I eating enough during the day? Or am I not eating enough during the day and then just overloading and overeating at nighttime, right? Or you could say, how often am I eating whole foods compared to processed foods? And another big one is, are my weekends supporting my lifestyle and my goals, or reversing the habits that I've constructed during the week? See, this is a big one, and I've talked about this on other podcasts, but when you work hard towards a goal, you are a little bit disciplined, you're structured, you have your habits in place, and you're doing that Monday through Thursday. But then Friday, you decide to let loose a little bit and have 3 glasses of wine at dinner instead of 1, and you decide to have that dessert. And look, I'm not here to tell you not to enjoy your life, but there's a difference between indulging a bit and having fun time with friends and family and totally going off the rails. Because trust me, I've been there. I've experienced stressful days, stressful weeks, and all you want to do is decompress. And I do that through food. Trust me, even though like you might say, Sean, I don't believe you, like you seem healthy. No. My thing is food, and I promise you, after a long week, I want nothing more than to dive into some lasagna, pasta, a glass of wine, bread, and then top it off with ice cream afterwards. I would love to do that all the time. But I know that if you work really hard during the week and then every weekend you do that, you're not able to make progress. And that's just not fair to all the work that you're putting in and to your future self and to the version of you who is much higher, right? We're always searching for that higher version of ourselves. So instead of telling yourself, I need more discipline, you might realize you just need a more substantial lunch so that you're not craving at 8 p.m. And that's what this version of tracking your food does. It's a very non-judgmental, but bringing awareness to your habits approach. Because I hear a lot of people say, you know what, I need to be more consistent. I need to get back on the horse. I need to have more discipline. And yeah, some of that might be true. But how empowering is it to, instead of saying, I need more discipline and beating yourself up, but you turn that conversation into, I just need to get a little bit more protein to start my day, and that'll help with my cravings later on. That's much more manageable, right? It's not overwhelming. It's not so daunting. It's not like this impossible large thing, this goal that you're throwing at yourself, or so vague. It's more detailed and it's more specific to you, and you say, wow, I can do that. I can eat an extra egg at breakfast. I could put a scoop of protein powder in my Greek yogurt bowl. I could do that. And all of a sudden, instead of being anxious towards this goal and having no direction, it's just a simple little fix, right? And that's a much more useful solution. So when I was thinking of this episode, the analogy that came to mind was math, right? I love to compare what you're dealing with your health, your nutrition, your strength training, all that, to other things so that it kind of simplifies it first, right? So imagine this. You have a first grader, and they come into class, and you're the teacher, and you give them a calculus textbook, and you say, all right, here you go. You're ready to roll, right? Prepare for your test on Friday. That would be crazy. You would never give a first grader a calculus textbook, and you would never expect them to understand it at all. They would first understand, what are the numbers? 0, 1 through 10, right? What is addition? 1 plus 1 equals 2. Subtraction. Maybe even some multiplication as they get older. The basic equations. And over years and years, when they get to maybe later in middle school or high school, they will have put together these foundational basics of math and evolve them into learning how to do calculus. And it will make sense to them, and they will be able to solve the equations. For you, the same process is there. It does not matter if you're 34 or 64. If you are someone who has no idea of what you're putting in your body, no idea the nutrients, no idea the timing, no idea the effect, you are effect in first grade. You are not ready for calculus. You are not ready to just count every, calorie and macro and try to approach it that way, because it's too overwhelming. It's too much at one time, and it's not enough awareness on your part to do it consistently and do it confidently. So that's where you're at right now. And if that's you, that's not me throwing a dag. That's not even a word. That's not me trying to call you out or say that you're less than. It's just simply your starting point. And there's nothing wrong with being there. The mistake is trying to skip ahead to some advanced level of nutrition and exercise or whatever, and wondering why everything feels so confusing and overwhelming and you have to keep restarting every single week. So just give yourself permission to learn these basics and to gradually move up and to gradually learn your body and become more and more aware of what you need to do to feel better and better. So what does the nutrition progression look like? Level 1 is just to build awareness, right? That is where we're talking about here, is to just write everything down that you eat and when you eat it. You need to literally stay here until food locking feels so simple that you can clearly recognize your patterns. You need to stay here for as long as it takes for you to say, oh, that's just what I do. Like I write down what I eat, and it's just so common to you. It's like second nature. It's like tying your shoe. I write this down. And you've done that long enough to clearly pick up the patterns in what you're doing. And what'll happen is, if you're working with someone like me or a nutritionist or someone, they can obviously help you, or they should be able to help you recognize these patterns. But the biggest things that come up are that you start to see them without any other guidance. You start to realize, oh man, I'm snacking a little bit too much every single night. Like, no wonder I feel like that. Or, man, I'm so busy that I just have a cup of coffee and shoot right out the door in the morning, and I'm not nourishing my body, right? Your intuition starts to kick in, and that's the beautiful part about it. That's where you take back control over your health. Now, level 2 is where you establish a protein goal, right? Once awareness is established, you can focus on consistently eating enough whole food protein. We're talking about eating protein at breakfast, getting about 25 to 30 grams of protein at each meal, understanding your approximate daily total, which for most people to start off is about 1 gram of protein per pound of goal body weight, right? And then understanding which meals you are regularly falling short at. Like the example I gave, maybe you wake up in the morning and you don't have any protein. So there's your first target and first thing to start to work on, right? Then at this level, you do this consistently for several weeks before you add another layer or change your major target, right? Again, it's just like level 1, it's got to get to a point where it just feels normal and it just feels a part of what you do. It's no longer a super big challenge to track your protein. You just know that 6 days, 7 days out of the week, you're going to hit your protein goal. It's not a big deal. Then you get to level 3, where you establish a fiber goal. So once your protein is consistent, you begin focusing on fiber through things like vegetables, fruit, beans and legumes, whole food carbs, nuts and seeds, if you enjoy those, right? And again, you allow this habit to become normal before you progress. So now, again, you're understanding and tracking what you're eating. You are eating protein at every meal and hitting your daily protein goal 6 to 7 days out of the week. Then you're eating your fiber goal, which is 25 to 40 grams per day, every single day, if not 6 days out of the week. So you're really getting into it. Protein's the primary focus of the meal. You're getting enough, servings of veggies per day. You're starting to feel changes. And this is the big thing, right? As you're working through these levels, you're getting more and more aware of how your body responds, how your energy is, your mood, your satiety, maybe how you're feeling in your clothes. Those things start to happen over weeks and weeks, right? And then after level 3, when we establish your fiber goal, level 4 is to just refine the details. This is where we start to get to higher levels of mathematics, so to speak, right? Because once your foundations are set and consistent, then and only then should you consider doing things like having a daily calorie expenditure, tracking your macros, making some adjustments to your portions. Maybe you have some strategy to your meal timing. Right? You can adjust your meal timing based upon your workouts and your schedule. Maybe you can do some performance nutrition because you've been doing so well and you want to train for a 5K or a lifting competition or a race, right? Then you can do some performance nutrition. Maybe you can do some more detailed tracking in an app. And through those apps or with a coach or whatever you're using, those are valuable tools, but they should never replace your basic nutritional awareness, right? Like I said before, we're trying to build you into someone who just knows what their body needs. When you get a craving, I'm low on minerals, I need some some mineral salt. If you're craving sugars, maybe your blood sugar's off and you need to stabilize with more protein or more consistent meals throughout the days. You start to learn those things and be in control of it, and then get to the point where your default is eating in the way that supports your body no matter what, right? Like you kind of wake up, your schedule's built out for proper energy, your fridge is full of stuff that works for you, the meals that you know how to cook are set up for success, and you're just living, right? And it's no longer this strive to lose weight or to figure it out. You're just kind of like on autopilot, because we have to realize it's not always about losing weight. Maybe that's been your goal for quite a while, but you'll eventually get to a point where you're not in the weight loss phase anymore. You're in the phase where I got lost on words there. You're in the phase where you're just maintaining, right? You're living your life at a happy weight. You have good muscle mass. Your energy's good. You no longer have to be losing weight. I feel like that train of thought is always in people's heads, where they always just want to lose weight. Well, you're going to get to a place where you need to maintain as well. Now with this, right, all these levels that you're working through, all these habits that you're adjusting, we need to realize that small adjustments work better than these big grandiose jumps. And we get this mixed up with goal setting with personal development, and it can harm us, right? Because in personal development, we're taught to have big, audacious goals so that you shoot for the stars and you might just land upon the moon. That is true. And you should have big, audacious goals in your life, because it generates you to take big action and be bold. With your health and your habits surrounding your nutritional intake, the same is not always true. If you have a big, audacious goal to lose a certain amount of weight or to hit a protein goal, you can't just jump to it, right? You can't just go from eating no protein to eating 150 grams every single day perfectly. It won't happen like that. The same thing applies in the gym. If you can bench press 5 pounds, but your goal is 500 pounds, you're not going to do that tomorrow, right? That makes sense to all of us. That clicks, that lands, because physically, you know for sure, I could not just pick up 500 pounds. The same thing applies to these habits. You need to build confidence, you need to build awareness and strength and consistency so that the next step is the obvious next jump, right? So you might only need to do things like add a little protein to your breakfast, eat lunch instead of skipping it, right? Prepare one dependable afternoon snack that's nutritious, whole food, high in protein. Maybe you need to start adding vegetables to your dinner. Maybe you need to just reduce mindless snacking at nighttime. Or maybe you need to eat more during the day so you have fewer cravings at night after dinner, right? These small improvements are way less overwhelming, they're easier to repeat, and they're more likely to become a part of your routine and a part of your identity moving forward. So the goal is not to just eat perfectly for 2 weeks and then throw it all out the window and try to restart on something new. The goal is to develop these skills so that you can use them for the rest of your life. Now, isn't that amazing, right? Wouldn't you want to become empowered and have this identity and have the habits of someone who just knows how to eat for their body? We don't want to be thinking about this all the time. We just want to eat. Damn it. Isn't that enough? Right? That everything doesn't have to be this program that we're doing and these calculations. You just want to eat. It doesn't have to be that complicated. That's where you can get to. Now, most of the women I'm talking to and that I work with are in menopause, right? And many of the women in menopause feel like their bodies have suddenly stopped responding to the stimulus, to the workout, to the foods, to all the things that used to happen. And a lot of times they're told to eat less, exercise more, or become more strict. And I can't believe I'm still hearing this, but it's true, so it needs to be talked about again. But adding more restriction to your lifestyle and your diet without understanding what you're currently eating and the intake and the nutrients is going to make your things like fatigue, your cravings, your stress levels, and the inconsistency that you're already struggling with worse. It's going to make your problems worse. So you don't need some other diet to go around. You just need to gain clarity on things like whether you're eating enough protein, whether you're under eating during the day, whether your meals are actually filling and nourishing to your body, whether stress and poor sleep are changing your eating habits, and whether your current routine is actually realistic for your life. And the awareness that we're building helps you stop guessing and start making decisions based on your actual body and habits and needs and not what you see on social media. So here's my challenge for you, not a challenge, but action takeaway is for the next 7 days, write down every single thing that you eat and drink, along with the approximate time that you eat it. I'm talking handful of nuts. I'm talking your lunch. Write it all down. Don't count calories. Don't weigh anything. Don't measure anything. Don't calculate macros. Do not try to be perfect, right? Then at the end of the week, I want you to sit with that journal and I want you to identify a few things. Number one pattern that you did not previously notice. Number two, one meal that regularly needs improvement. Maybe, like I said, maybe you don't eat lunch at all. Maybe you don't have any protein at breakfast. And then number three is one small change that you can practice for the following week, right? Don't fix 10 different things, just choose one, right? And then you can continue that process on week 2 where you write everything down, you make that small adjustment. And understand this, you do not need to be ashamed of your starting point or thinking that you're at ground zero and you don't know anything. It's like, don't be ashamed of that. You just need to be honest about it, because for too long, you've been lying to yourself about how you've been eating, how you've been treating your body, or maybe you just didn't even know at all and you were acting emotionally. So stop trying to graduate to the next level before you've completed the first lesson, right? Build that awareness, master the basics, the foundations, and earn the right to add more complexity into your life over time. The healthiest people that I know are not always the people following this most advanced plan. In fact, they're often the people who just over time consistently execute these fundamentals at a very basic level over and over again. So thank you for listening. I hope you got some value out of this. If you did, go ahead and take some action on this. And I want to hear back from you on how it's working in your life. So I will talk to you next week. Hey, thanks for spending some time with me on today's episode. I hope you got a ton of value from it. If we're not connected on Instagram yet, let's change that. Hit me up at Sean Calhoun _. That's SEAN Calhoun _. Shoot me a DM. Let me know what you think of the show or if you got any questions about how to level up your health. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you on the next episode.